skydiving can be hazardous to one's health. And then the kickboxing after that was put a little too much strain on the foot. So, Mr. Chair and members, let me start off by saying I'm accepting the committee's amendments. I'm also presenting Assembly Bill 1431, which will expand the job order contracting program available to the Los Angeles Unified School Districts to all school districts in California. Job ordering contracting develops a construction task catalog with California-specific rates for various discrete construction tasks. These construction tasks range from roof replacement and repairs to ADA compliance modifications to security projects and lab replacements. By using job ordering contracting, LAUSD has been able to cut costs because a contractor will bid on one master contract for multiple small projects. They have also been able to reduce project procurement time by 242 days because contractors don't have to bid on each individual project. In essence, getting the money out a little faster with a lot of the protections and guarantees. Here, to speak on the bill, I have a few witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Cesar Diaz on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. This bill is modeled after a partnership between the contractors and the building trades affiliates with the LA Unified School District. Under a pilot program that was initiated about a decade ago, giving JOC authorization to LAUSD. That JOC authorization was then extended, and a lot of issues were addressed within job order contracting in the district to make it even more successful and compliant with different laws. We feel that the benefit of that type of partnership should also be provided to other school districts that enter into such partnerships where there's an encouragement to hire people from disadvantaged communities, veterans, through the Helmets to Hard Hats program, emancipated youth, and very targeted local hire through what's called a project labor agreement. In LA, it's called a project stabilization agreement. I think various members of this committee are familiar with project labor agreements and their value to the community and how they're a useful tool for local governments to provide efficiency, cost reductions, but also to maximize the benefit to the taxpayers in that particular area by ensuring that workers from the specific target areas are actually employed through the bonds that are provided and passed by the voters. For those reasons, we urge you to support. This is an option provided to a school district, not a mandate, and request your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Eric Parker with the Los Angeles Unified School District. The district hasn't taken a formal position, but in working with the author and the sponsors, we're very confident we'll be in support of the bill very soon. We just thought we'd come in here today and share our experience with the JOC contract provisions and how it's worked. It's been a tremendous benefit. It really focuses on those routine, simple projects where most school districts seem to spend most of their summers working on. For us, we've actually had the authority now for about 7 years in practice, and we've been able to issue almost $750 million in job order contracting. In our district, as many of you know, we have a PSA, and it's worked tremendously with all of our contractors, union or non-union. Had a chance just before the hearing to take a look at our contracts, and roughly 40% of our contracts awarded went to non-union contractors. We have a great number of small business enterprise firms working on our projects, and so we just feel that this is a benefit to our district, and we know it will be a benefit to all school districts throughout the state. So we look forward to supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Barrett Snyder, on behalf of the Small School Districts Association, in support. This pilot has shown cost savings and time savings. We'd love to have that option extended to the other school districts in the state, so urge your support. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Eddie Bernanke on behalf of the National Electrical Contractors Association, the California Legislative Conference of the Plumbing, Heating, and Piping Industry, and United Contractors. Our contractors have had the pleasure of working under JOC contracts under the pilot program within LAUSD. We have found it to be an easy-to-use alternative delivery method, and a delivery method has cut out a lot of the problems that we find in typical delivery methods as dealing with change orders and disputes with the agency. So for those reasons, we're in support of the measure and urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Brooks Ellison on behalf of the Gordian Group, which is a consultant for local government and school districts for job order contracting, including LAUSD, urging your support. I also have with me Rex DiMartini, who's been a job order contracting consultant and contractor on both sides for about 28 years to answer any questions that you might have.
Did he wish to comment quickly? Okay.
I firmly believe in the program. It's great for the owners in getting projects done in a timely manner.
Thank you. With that, any further support? Any opposition, please come forward.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman, members. Julianne Broyles here on behalf of the Associated Builders and Contractors of California, as well as the Western Electrical Contractors, the Plumbing and Heating Contractors, and Associated Builders and Contractors of California. We are here to oppose AB 1431 as it was amended March 26. We are very concerned that it sets some new unreasonable barriers in the job order contracting that unfairly skews the contracts to mostly unionized contractors at the expense of local contractors who also may be women and minority-owned businesses competing for those contracts. JOC or JOC, or however you want to describe it, is used as a simplified contracting process for public entities such as schools with routine upkeep and maintenance needs. When you do this, you use basically an adjustment factor to be applied to a catalog of simple tasks. And the simple task is something that we think defines job order contracting versus any other type of public works contracting, which are usually complex projects that require a number of trades to perform the work, versus what we have here today, which are simple routine maintenance issues. The project labor agreements are also part of these new job order contracting provisions that are being proposed, not currently in place in all school districts today. They are used as necessary by school districts throughout the state, and some may not be as sophisticated or as complex as you have here in Los Angeles Unified School District or others. We do think that minority and women-owned contractors will be locked out of a lot of these contractors after this goes into place, because there are requirements in the PLAs that most of the work comes and be dispatched from union-only work calls, and that, again, is not something that many of the small businesses are prepared to do. We also believe that employee safety should be something that everybody looks for in any public works project. When you provide an exception to how somebody presents their safety record by giving an exception to those who are unionized contractors, and then put new mandates on non-union contractors to demonstrate their safety record, we think that's an unfair and a discriminatory provision. If we're safe, all of us should show how safe we are, and it shouldn't be anything that should be provided as an excuse. And then last of all apprenticeship programs should be allowed to provide workers on these programs. All of our programs have quality workers, both union and non-union alike, have quality workers who have to meet the same skills and the same program requirements that are approved by the Department of Industrial Relations Division of Apprenticeship Standards and by the U.S. Department of Labor. They don't differ. Our graduates have to meet the same requirements. Neither is different, neither is better, neither is worse. We all worked and strive to find quality apprentices for this work. Last of all, I don't think there's been any data that shows the need for the JOC contracting to go into place with a PLA on all school districts throughout the state without a lot more investigation. For those reasons, we're opposing the bill, and appreciate that you're listening to us today.
Thank you. Any further opposition? Seeing no further opposition, any members of the committee wish to comment? Seeing no comment from the committee, do we have a motion? I'll second. Bill's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please. Oh, go ahead and close, Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Chair, thank you for having the committee work with us, and we are making some small adjustments as we move through the process, and we'll keep you informed of those adjustments. Thank you so much. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass with amendments to the Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? No. Kim, no. McCarty? Santiago? Thurmond? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye.
The bill is on call. Now we'll take up
Thank you. I said, skydiving.
Assembly Bill 566. It's item number 7, file item number 7 by O'Donnell. So we'll pass the gavel to Ms. Weber. I'll drop it off on my way.
Mr. O'Donnell? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair and members, I am pleased to present AB 566. The bill does two things. First, the bill requires contractors and any subcontractors for lease, leaseback, and lease-to-own projects to use a skilled and trained workforce. Lease-leaseback bypasses the traditional bidding process by allowing a contractor to lease district property for as low as $1 a year to construct a school facility and lease it back to the school district, who takes title at the end of the lease period. This bill will provide some assurances that we are getting a quality product. The second part of this bill deals with pre-qualification. AB 1565, enacted in 2012, requires for 5 years school districts using state bonds to pre-qualify and rate potential contractors and major contractors for any project over $1 million. The Department of Industrial Relations is required to submit a report to the legislature in 2018. Since the enactment of AB 1565, state bond funds for new construction and modernization projects have been exhausted. This bill will extend pre-qualifications to all school construction projects over $1 million, regardless of the funding source. I believe pre-qualification is a very useful tool to screen potential bidders. But in order to get a report from the Department of Industrial Relations that is useful, we need data. This bill will help the legislature to determine whether the requirement should continue before the January 1st, 2019 sunset. And Madam Chair, Cesar Diaz from the Building Trades is here to testify in support of the bill.
Thank you. We'll have two witnesses, possibly, and 2 minutes each. Is that what it is?
Yes,
Yeah,
2 and
thank
2.
you. Thank you. Good.
Madam Chair, members, Cesar Diaz on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. If you sense that there's a theme here regarding a skilled workforce, there is one. It's provided to alternative delivery methods for school construction projects. The state spends a certain amount of funds encouraging people to go through the apprenticeship program. Our unions, based on workers' wages, invest over $100 million annually to train the next generation of workers. There's about 55,000 apprentices in the current system now, the majority in joint labor management programs. This ensures that California has access to a skilled workforce to actually achieve some of the more complex private and public projects that the state involves itself in. With regards to lease-leaseback, we're looking at an alternative delivery method that sometimes could be sole source bidding. It's not really done through the traditional bidding process, but it does provide some flexibility for school districts that they want to keep. We want to improve upon that flexibility, but also ensure that there's proper abiding by some of the state's laws, and also encourage that it's quality construction so that the taxpayers don't have to come back and actually do a deal with shoddy work. And for those reasons, we respectfully urge your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, also here in support of the bill. In addition to making improvements to the lease-leaseback system, as mentioned by both the author and sponsor, we think this is an important step forward for the apprenticeship infrastructure that we already have in California, and we'd urge your support.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers in support? Is there any opposition? Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Julianne Broyles here on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors of California, the Western Electrical Contractors, and the Plumbing and Heating and Cooling Contractors of California, and ABC San Diego chapter. We will also have an opposed unless amended position on AB 566. The bill, in our view, could impose new and unnecessary restrictions that will basically limit the pool of contractors available to do leasebacks, or perform work on school bond funded projects in the future. We think that is something that, as policymakers, that should make us all take a deep breath before we limit the use of taxpayer-funded dollars to fund taxpayer-funded projects and limit the type of taxpayer that can work on those projects. All apprenticeship programs, again, must go through the same approval process, the same curriculum approval process, the same amount of hours to supply and train workers on public works projects or to contractors throughout the state. We take great pride in our apprenticeship programs and would invite all of you to come down and see them. We think that they are marvels, both in the union and non-union side, to that turn out something and a student that into a worker that is valued for their skills and experience as they leave their programs. We do think that you should also be aware that the section in 17407.5 I through 3, which is the skilled workforce sections requirements in the bill, is currently being litigated at the state level, and there should be basically some hesitation on whether or not you should add this to a bill when it has not been determined to be or not to be permissible by the courts. And again, at the very least, there should be an extended phase-in of this requirement, because you will not have the pool of skilled workers needed to meet the requirements beginning in just basically 7 short months. For these reasons, we would like to work with you on this, find a way to extend out those skilled workforce due dates and the percentages of workforces that we must have to supply those workers for at least 2 years. At the best, 1 year would be even acceptable if that is possible. And then the last point we want to make sure is that we do want to find an acceptable path for those with documented extensive experience through the military also be grandfathered in, so that their service experience is counted towards the journeyman status. For those reasons, we haven't opposed unless amended a position on the bill.
Thank you very much. Is there any other opposition to the bill? Ads or tweeners or concerns? Yes.
Dave Walrath, representing Coalition for Adequate School Housing. We are not opposed to the bill. We have some fiscal concerns. We want to work with the sponsor and the author on trying to address those in a way that does not harm the bill. We want to work together and try to reach an agreement on how to address those concerns. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Is there any other opposition or tweeners? Okay. Any comments from the members here? The 1 or 2 of us who's here? No comments, no questions? Okay. Can I get a motion for the bill? I will move it. You can second it. Okay, good. We got a first and a second. Okay, any closing comments, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
Madam Chair, policies like this are policies that keep giving. They give us a better trained workforce and a better product in the end. And I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Okay. Could we have roll call?
The motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? No. Kim, no. McCarty? Santiago? Thurmond? Weber?
Yes, aye.
Weber, aye.
It's on call, waiting for our members who are upstairs with me in another meeting to return. Thank you.
We will now move to file item number 11 by Mr. Lowe. Mr. Lowe, file item number 11, which is AB.
AB 524.
524.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, members and Mr. Chair, for allowing me to present on Assembly Bill 524. This bill essentially focuses on service learning. And as you may know and recall from your childhood, many of us have had many different activities throughout high school and many different requirements for graduation. This, simply put, would make a requirement for service learning upon graduation from high school. As we all know, much of the opportunity exists to increase our opportunity in terms of educational as relates to civics and a sense of duty to our respective communities. And because I'm talking to Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And I would also like to make mention that I would like to accept the committee's amendments for the defining the service learning to allow service learning to be integrated into any class requirement for graduation.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Any witnesses in support? Seeing no witnesses in support, any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, any members of the committee wish to comment? Well, the committee. There's no co here. So I'll comment. It's a great idea. I've seen it in practice at my own high school. I do just caution you that maybe this is what LCFF is for. You and I have had that conversation. But I certainly appreciate your appreciation for this topic and how important it is. So with that, did you wish to comment on this bill? You did.
Apologies, I was waiting for a witness from here. California State PTA, we just wanted to express our support on the bill.
Thank you. With that, we're going to hold the bill over, put the bill over, Mr. Lowe, because we don't have enough members present at this time. It's temporary.
My
Not till next week.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just in time.
Mr. Allen is present. Okay, Mr. Allen, we're going to start with, wait, one moment. 943 is on consent, so we're going to start with AB 839.
Fantastic. First of all, thank you very much for moving my other bill through consent, and I'm here today to present AB 839 for your consideration. I introduced a similar bill last year, AB 2408, that passed through the legislature with overwhelming support. This bill this year, AB 839, was adjusted to address the governor's veto concerns. AB 839 provides representation for parents and charter school opportunities in California on the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence to ensure that every student has access to the best education available. As you may know, the California Education Code section established the collaborative to advise and assist our local education agencies in achieving the state's educational goals. Currently, every aspect of the bureaucracy of our children's education has been afforded representation on the collaborative, except for parents and charter schools. Yet in the California Education Code, section, this would be 52060, section D3, states that our state's priorities should be, and I quote, parental involvement, including efforts the school district makes to seek parent involvement in making decisions for the school district and each individual school site. So given the fact that parental involvement is one of the 8 specifically articulated statutory goals of the state, and that parents are the best natural advocates for our children that we need to educate, this minor change to the composition of the collaborative is not only warranted, but necessary. The collaborative will be far more successful if a member with charter school expertise and a parent representative are given a voice to provide a non-bureaucratic, real-world understanding of what the impacts of the collaborative's decisions are for our public schools. Your aye vote for AB 839 ensures that we're in compliance with the Education Code and provides a direct voice for the best natural advocates for our children, the parents of our grandchildren, of our children, of our nieces and our nephews, all of our future Californians, which will directly increase the quality of education that all students receive throughout California. And as a last thought, I would bring you this. With California currently ranked 46th in the nation providing a quality education to our children, this simple step will begin to improve the quality of education that our California students, all of our children, will receive throughout California and will move us one step closer to fixing our broken public education system. Thank you.
I would say our public education system has challenges, but I would not say it's broken.
I would simply contend that 46th in the nation is not number 1 in the nation, which is where we used to be.
46 in funding, for sure.
I
Maybe
would love,
48th.
I would
With
love
that, your witnesses.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Bron Shea Jones on behalf of K-12 and Charter School Capital. Happy to work with the author this year, worked with the author last year. I think this is an important step, just balancing the collaborative. When you look at some of the powers they will be endowed with, including shutting down charter schools possibly in the future. I'm not saying that they will do that, but that will be under their authority. That is under their authority today. It will be. we believe it's important to have a charter school representative there and a parent representative. For that reason, we'd ask for your aye vote.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Lucia with Ed Voices. We advocate for both charter school modality and traditional schools, and we do think that, as we did last year, that the idea of a parent and a charter school representative would be a positive addition to the collaborative. With respect to the appointing authority, we were hopeful that indeed the governor's concerns were alleviated, but also as a reminder, both as the underlying statute was written and remains as of today, there is an opportunity for revocation of charter schools as a result of a recommendation by the collaborative, and we think that makes it all the more important that the charter lens be considered, because remember, the collaborative is actually only an entity that ultimately contracts with consultants, and in doing so, you could have a situation, in fact, where the recommendation of a single contracted consultant in terms of the needs of improvement in transformation of a charter school to remedy any shortcomings in an LCAP could result in the actual revocation of a charter school. And in the passage of LCFF and LCAP statutes, the ability to have an administrative appeal was removed, and so the only remedy would be the Superior Court. And accordingly, we think that lens and that voice would be very helpful in this regard.
Mr. Chair and members, Rand Martin on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association, also in support. Simply remind the committee that we currently represent 8% of the students in California in public schools. It's a number that's growing, and we do think that somebody from charter schools on the collaborative would bring a perspective that's unique to charter schools.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in support?
Mike Ambrose on behalf of Students First, our organization, is in support as well.
Great, thank you. Any witnesses in opposition to this bill?
Mr. Chairman, members, Steve Henderson representing the California School Employees Association. Mr. Chairman, we are opposed to this bill for two reasons. If you look at the governor's veto message from last year on a bill that's very similar to this one, what the governor said is it is a bit premature to change the components of the collaborative at this time when the collaborative had barely begun their work. To date, the collaborative has had 2 meetings and they're still trying to staff up. We would concur with the governor that it's a bit premature at this point to adjust or change the membership of the collaborative. The other point that I would like to make is that the collaborative has broad authority to contract with individuals, LEAs, organizations to seek the assistance in helping them do the reviews for the work that they are intended to do. And at this point, we would agree that with that broad authority, there's no need to make any changes to the membership at this time. However, if it is the committee's purview to make changes, what I would suggest is that you would also look to add a classified employee to that particular collaborative. Classified employees, of course, have extensive experience dealing with the students, particularly the targeted students, whether that be the bus drivers, the food service workers, the paraprofessionals in the classrooms, the office staff. So we certainly believe if you are inclined to change the membership of the collaborative, you should certainly look to add a classified employee. Thank you.
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association. I'll just kind of equate myself with some of what Steve said originally, but also the fact that given the purpose of the collaborative is to provide technical assistance in the development and the furtherance of the LCAP, we tend to kind of see it as the local school board is the one who ultimately has to approve this, shepherd the development through, and we would, at that point, if you're looking to expand the CCEE, request that a school board member be placed on there, as we are the entity at the local level that does have to approve these and does have to take responsibility for the enactment of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I have to say I agree with the comments already made, Mr. Allen. I think, it's a new board. I think we need some data or certainly some examples of why there needs to be change, and there's going to be a long line once we change it once. And if you really look at the mission of the board, I don't think we really need to add anybody at this point. The board has no direct involvement in identifying schools or in providing assistance. So really specialized, very specialized experience in charters may not be needed. Down the road, there may be a need for it. The board already has a broad representation of the education community. Again, do we add more? Do we add more? And where do we draw the line? I think that's really the question I have. And this isn't, I had another bill where I had the same discussion with a member today where I was saying, I just can't support expanding the board right now. Down the road, there may be some reason to change the board, but today I can't be supportive of that, just so you know where I'm coming from. With that, any other comments from the committee?
I haven't given this much thought, but I continue to believe at some point in life that our school districts will believe that they're in charge of our charters and will embrace our charters as public schools, and that when a superintendent speaks, they speak for the schools that are in their jurisdiction, which includes charters. And the same is true with our county board. So at this point, I don't see the need to expand it because, first of all, I'm not even sure if they're going to ever do anything. And we have a lot of organizations and boards and commissions and what have you. So I think we may be getting excited over something that's not going to even be worth looking at in the end unless something serious happens. But most importantly, as I look at this and I see the composition of basically county superintendents, local superintendent, those kinds of broad leadership, I assume and I would expect them to adequately represent our charters. And if not, then I will definitely go to their meetings and explain to them why they are the superintendents of charters as well as other schools, because charters are public schools. Mm-hmm. And I say that consistently, and everybody keeps breaking them out to be something else, but they are charter. They are public schools in California. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Just a note, I think they've had one meeting of the board thus far.
Yeah.
Maybe two? Okay, two. I apologize, too.
Yeah.
Ms. Kim, did you want to comment? Okay. All right, thank you. Move the bill. Mr. Thurman.
I have been following this. This is a new issue for me, but I have been following it, and I appreciate the author bringing it. With respect to Dr. Weber's comments, I actually agree. All students are our students, and they deserve the best that we can provide for them, and our school districts should recognize that about charter schools the same way they do about traditional public schools. I am moved by the concerns that for a structure that is just getting started to add to it at this time seems premature. I appreciate, though, your interest in the spirit of what I believe your spirit of your interest to be, to ensure that the voice of all students, including charter school students, is heard at this structure. Let's wait and give it some time and see, but for now I don't feel I can support the measure. Thank you, though.
Okay, the motion is due pass to appropriations. Madam Secretary, you call the roll.
Mr. Chair, would you mind if I closed?
Oh, I completely apologize.
No problem.
You may close, Mr. Allen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. First, I would state that it is never premature to ensure that our students get the very best education possible, and that is not happening in California today. It is a simple fact that our schools are ranked 46th in the nation. That's broken. That's not fixed. That's broken. And I'm telling you, members here, we used to have the #1 education system in the entire country. We talk about representing Californians, and I don't care whether you're representing Californians in rural areas or urban areas or what sort of demographic you happen to be talking about. This is something that affects all Californians. As a matter of fact, in the inner cities, this affects some of these students the very most, where we have some of the very worst failing public schools. So what I would contend is this. The CCE is a brand new board. Yes, I do recognize that. They've only had 2 meetings. I do recognize that. But what we're taking a look at is what is the purpose of the collaborative? And the purpose is to give us the best educational outcome possible. And who better to be the advocate for our children, who are really the reason that we have an education system. It's not for the classified employees. It's not for the teachers. We have an education system to educate our children. And who better to advocate for our children than for their parents? For that simple reason, I would say we should include the parents. I do very much appreciate Assemblywoman Weber, your comments, Assemblymember Thurman, your comments about charter schools being public schools. Absolutely, charter schools are public schools. They're public schools where we get to try out new and innovative methods to educate our children, to get ourselves up from the ground, from this deep pit of being 46th in the nation, which is abysmal, and something that we should all be deeply ashamed of and try to fix every single day. And I think that by appointing these two representatives, it's not only not premature, it's absolutely necessary and it's warranted. So I understand if you might have to hold off on the bill today, but I appreciate you weighing in, and I appreciate you putting some serious thought into the fact that the best natural advocates for our children are their parents. And in this discussion of fixing our broken education system, it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to the expertise of what some of these charter schools are doing with their excellent educational outcomes that we have so far. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much, and I request an aye vote.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Again, the motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
No.
O'Donnell, no. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Thurman? Thurman, no. Weber? Weber, no.
Okay, the bill is on call.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Weber.